here we're going to get a little bit more specific. And this comes into kind of what buildings are good and also some general placements of them. I would say I want to split this into two. I think buildings that are very good on offense and that are very good on defense are two different beasts. In my opinion, most offense buildings aren't very good. I would say Duel's Indulgence is probably on the better side, but that's assuming you even have a duo. Tactics Room was my biggest mistake in the investment. I thought it was going to be a lot better than it was. The problem with... I guess I'll also go into why I don't like some buildings. Infantry, Armor, Cavalry, Flyer, they're targeting one unit type. And on 3 rows, you have to invest into it so much for a building that's not even consistent all the time. And I feel like if a building is not helping you most of the time, it's not good. Tactics Room has consistency issues. If it was 3 rows, it would be better. But because Tactics Room is 1 column and it's HP centric, and you have to invest so much actual stones into it, I don't think the cost justifies what you get out of it. If it hits 1 column and their dancer or their mage or whatnot is in the wrong column, it does nothing. And then there are also scenarios where you don't want their unit getting gravitied. I just think it's too inconsistent for what it does. Yeah, I mean, it'd be better if it was 3 rows, but that'd probably be ridiculous. But as a whole, I think it's not worth it. Healing Tower, it's too defense oriented because it only heals within the first, I think it was 2 rows? 3 rows. So if you're going very into their enemy team, it's usually not going to do much for you. Level 1 is usually enough. And on light, it's basically worthless. And during Astra, it has a tendency to be broken by Dumas. So at that point, you're just better off using a Heron. Panic Manor is... I would say it's kind of okay. My big argument against Panic Manor is inconsistency and costs associated. You have to invest so much into it to make it good. Most teams don't run buffs, so it has high return but a lot of variance. I think you're better off investing into something else. Catapult is something I've never fallen in love with, but I can understand why people like it. I feel like it has consistency issues, where when it's good, it's really good, but when it's doing nothing, it's done nothing the whole map. Bright Shrine and Dark Shrine are, again, consistency. Consistency, consistency, consistency. You don't know who you're hitting. You don't know if it's going to benefit you by hitting them with Bright Shrine and Dark Shrine. You don't know if it's actually going to make a matter, and you have to invest so much into it to get the best out of it. You're better off investing into other things. So that said, I think the best buildings... Oh, I can't show Bolt Tower here because mine's maxed out. But by far, about maybe 2 tiers above every other building is Bolt Tower, in my opinion. At least 2 tiers above every building. Bolt Tower is ridiculous, and I don't know how I didn't realize it was ridiculous. It does so much damage. It allows sweeps. It can force AI to move differently. It can get units low who you didn't have a chance of killing before. It's so multifunctional. It enables CC Vantage to work. It enables Omega tanks to work on occasion. The downside of it is you have to place it so aggressively that it has a tendency to be broken by dormers. But that's such a nitpick that I don't think that takes away. That just means Duma actually has at least one use. And I did actually forget Escape Ladder too. Escape Ladder might actually be as good or a bit better than Bolt Tower. I like Bolt Tower more, but Escape Ladder is also super clutch. It allows you to hit the cog 4 times throughout the week. It turns an instant loss into a redo, which is broken. So, of the buildings to invest, Bolt Tower, Escape Ladder. Escape Ladder is probably higher priority, but Bolt Tower is super, super good. Every other building, you will probably regret investing into it if you invest into it before Escape Ladder and Bolt Tower. Now, defensive is a whole different load of beans. It's a whole different load of beans. Funnily enough, all the schools are still bad. They're all still bad. Inconsistent as crap. Duo's hindrance. It goes from really good to useless, depending on if you have a duo. So, this building either makes it so you don't have to deal with Hector breaking your IP chain, to it does nothing. As of now, because we have no duos freely available, I would argue it's actually worse than the schools. But if you do have a duo, absolutely use it. You can save your IP chain. My biggest problem with it is how much do you want to defend it? How scared of you are you of their duo skill? If you put it in the last row, even if it's not well protected, it's usually done its job against Hector. Every other time, are you really going to protect it for like 4 or 5 turns? As of right now, I don't know how good it is. Bolt Tower, how the tables have turned. Bolt Tower goes from one of the best buildings to one of the worst buildings on defense. It's so easy to snipe. It's very hard to hit enemies with. And if it's a threat, they're just going to break it. It's pretty bad on defense. Tactics Room goes from one of the most inconsistent buildings to one of the best. The problem with Tactics Room usually comes down to how well are you going to defend it. But usually, as long as it's mildly defended, it's slowing down the enemy team enough that it gives you an extra turn too. Panic Manor, I think, is slightly better. Actually, I would say it's much better than Tactics Room. The problem with Panic Manor is it requires so much invest to get good. Unlike Tactics Room, if you have it to like level 3, it's already hitting a bunch of mages. But Panic Manor requires so much stones to become really good. So it's more of it's eventually going to become good than it's good right now. Catapult. I would say it's worth investing into because we have an extra slot nowadays. I don't know how good it's going to be in the long term, but I could see myself investing into it more as time goes on. Bright Shrine, Dark Shrine, I think are one of the better buildings around. Probably top 5. They're consistent at hitting their sweepers, their tanks. It makes it go from doing, let's say, 10 times 2 to 15 times 2, which is pretty significant. Healing Tower is definitely the best building, though. If you're looking to counteract CC Vantage, if you're looking to count DC Vantage, it can take your units going from, let's say, 20 HP to 50 HP, which is a huge difference. It can make your team basically unkillable to CC Vantage in certain scenarios. The biggest issue with Healing Tower, though, is how much you want to protect it. In my case, I go full on into protecting it to basically make it unsnipeable. But as a result, I have to give up people actually having a defense tile. So it's almost like an escort mission in a way. You have to protect your healing tower, but if you do, it pays in dividends. Alright. So... Alright. Now, I'll actually talk a little bit. Let's see. About buildings and how you want to place them. I would say the most left and the most right are typically where you want to keep your fort and escape ladder. These spots are usually not very important. These 4 are usually where you want to put your buildings. No, sorry, no aesthetic ratings, sorry. I would say these 3 rows are the best spots for Bolt Tower. If you're looking to actually use Healing Tower, I would say either this spot or this spot is the safest spot for Healing Towers, because Dumas as well as catapults are typically aligned for these 4 rows, because they're trying to hit out bolt towers, tactics room, and other such things. So it's almost kind of like metagaming, because these areas are so contested. If you leave your healing tower over here, you still get a decent amount of range while keeping it protected. Alright, let's see. Other important things on offense. Offense structures are kind of the 4 rows in the middle. I won't go into Dark Shrine, Bright Shrine, etc., or any of the schools, because they typically have the same idea that the boat tower wants to be in. Tactics room. I don't think there's even a consistent place to put the tactics room, honestly. I feel like usually mages are in typically row 2 to 3. and sometimes 5. Lane 4, I don't know if it's really that popular. As for Boat Tower, I think it does the most work in 3, 4, and 5. I think usually lane 4 is where I like keeping my Boat Tower during light, but during Astra, as a precaution against Duma, who typically sits around lane 3 and 4, I like switching it off one tile. I feel like it changes the number of times it gets sniped off by Duma by a pretty significant number. Lane 3 is also fine. I'd say these 3 are the top places. If you can help it, light, both of these are good. But on Astra, I typically like pushing it over here. Now, on defense, where you want to put your buildings is a whole different story. As you can see, between this map and this map and even this map, the layouts completely differ on where you want to keep your healing tower, your tactics room. As a rule, you want to keep your shrines far in the back to make it a pain in the butt. Because the farther in they're into the back, the more time they have to invest into taking out the shrines, which typically means they're running low on turns, which also typically means their boat tower, which a lot of people do have, will usually get healed off by a healing tower. So yeah, I'm not going to go into exactly where you want to place every single one of your buildings, because I'd have to go into different team comms, why they're good, and how they're good. As a rule, your healing tower is protected, your shrines are in the back, your tactics room is an annoying area where they have to break buildings to get to, and as a result, they get tactics. And if you use any other building, you might as well just put them like, let's say, that's a good building. I can't have that. You might as well put it over here because it's going to do you nothing. So you might as well just use it as a blockade. I haven't mentioned traps. That's a good point. So, traps are also another beast. Traps are definitely something that is easy to say are good, but it's hard to exactly explain of where you want to put your traps. Because whether your traps are going to be good or not is going to depend on what you're trying to accomplish. For example, the traps here accomplish 2 different goals. By putting this heavy trap over here, I'm making the enemy commit to so much into getting this healing tower. They have to first, to safely do this, they have to be able to move up here, and they have to be able to hit this. So normal Cavs can't get here until they break this line. And once they get into here, now they're getting tactics roomed. So I make people commit super hard to getting this healing tower. I don't think heavy trap needs to be heavily maxed out. I think because the thing is, even if they're not necessarily affected, it still ends their turn. So even a level 1 trap is still worth investing into. I would say bow trap is super dangerous to invest to nowadays. I think back in the day it was fine. But investing too heavily into your bolt trap nowadays can lead to situations where CC Vantage are able to take advantage of your bolt trap plus their bolt tower to leave your units at 1 HP and leave yourself open for an easy CC Vantage or DC Vantage. It's kind of like a double-edged sword nowadays. You want it to be high enough level to threaten the enemies who try to end turn you or try to YOLO into you, but you don't want it too high level. Yeah, it's weird. I would say you want them. How much you want to invest into them is up to your own disclosure. I would say 2 and 3 bolt and gravity traps are at least good enough for the job most of the time. I do think level at least 2 to 3 bolt trap is good. Higher than that is you're playing risky games. And heavy trap 2 to 3 is good enough because you're hitting most cab horses at that point. Alright, but yeah. So back onto the point of placement of... So the second trap over here is specifically here. Yeah, thanks for the follow, VOD I. So the specific point of this trap over here is to specifically mess with people trying to CC advantage me with the Blade Tome. By putting a trap here, I make it impossible for them to smite, let's say their Tharja, from here to up here, because there's no feasible way to them hit the Kagero while guaranteeing this is real or fake. And if they had to take all this time to test this trap to make sure if this play is safe, that's 2 to 3 turns already wasted. So then this becomes from a turn 2 play to turn 5 play. And now that's coming close to a timeout. So that's you have to make your traps perform for you and make people play into 50-50s. And at the top level of AR, people don't want to play 50-50s. Because they go from an easy map to, am I going to win this or not, based on, random.